So now that we're done with the strut, we can go ahead and move on to the bracket. I went back to just the rectangular cross-section strut just to show you this. But before we do the bracket, I will show you kind of like what the bracket is kind of meant to be. So here's the example that I gave in the project outline. Basically, let me move this, you can see. Basically, the idea is that this bracket will fit over the top of your strut. Um, can even move this off so you can kind of see it fits like this, and then the idea is that then these holes line up so you could in real life bolt them together. But also like here's the bracket I just showed you. It's just basically like a U bracket with two holes, but then there's also something like this that you could do where it has the U bracket design, but it also has, you know, kind of some holes on the side here too. So basically it's up to you what you kind of want to make your bracket be, but I'm going to show you how to do like this one, and then you can add additional features to it if you feel like it. Entirely up to you. So when I start this design, I need to decide which side do I want, you know, the two legs to fit over. So in my case, I'll do the shorter side, is the side they'll fit around. But we also need to know before we actually start modeling the bracket, we need to know what the lengths of these sides are. Now, of course, I know what these are because I designed it and I, you know, picked the cross section for the strut. But if you want to know, you can go to this analysis tab and click this measure button. And then I have it set to object and then set to free. And then if you, down here, it's on the curve / edge one. And then you can just click an edge and it will tell you the length of that side. Similarly, look like this side, it'll tell me what the length is. So that's a way for you to basically measure your design if you need to know what the dimensions are. So now we can go ahead and we will make a new part file for our bracket. Again, making sure it's a model, making sure the units are correct, and then naming it, hit OK. And then we'll start this off similarly to how we started off with the strut. So again, I will make a new sketch. I'll put this one also on the XY plane. And then I'm going to make a rectangle that will fit basically right on top of, it fits the exact dimensions of the cross section of my strut. You can do this any number of ways. There's not a set way to do this, but this is how I'm going to do it. I'll set the side to 0.8. And then I'll set the top to 1.2. And then we'll do our geometric constraints. I'll just make this horizontally or vertically aligned to this horizontally aligned to this. Again, I'm doing this basically the same as I did the strut, but you can constrain it however you need to. So there's that. And then I'll start by making an extrusion of this. So I'll extrude this out to, sure, 0.1 inches is fine. And then the next thing I'm going to do is make the two sides of it. Now, a nice thing that I didn't mention in the strut video is you don't have to make a sketch every time you want to make an extrusion. If you make an extrusion and you don't already have a curve, you can just pick a plane and it will automatically take you into the kind of sketch window. So this is like basically just like making a sketch that you're going to extrude, but it's just inside the extrusion. Again, I'm just going to make a rectangle to make that front edge. I'll put it up like this, and then we'll pick a length for how tall this is. 0.5 is fine. We'll do 0.65. And then if you're ever not sure which constraint you're missing, see sketch needs one constraint, just click on it and drag it, and you'll be able to see what's wrong. You can see that this corner isn't actually matched to this corner, so I will use the coincident constraint to constrain that to this point. Cool. So now you can see my sketch is fully constrained. I'll say finish. And I will extrude this outward from the base plate I just made, again to the same width, whatever you want to do. If you're ever not sure if it's going to like, whenever you go to make an extrusion on another thing like this, you'll want to check this Boolean and make sure if it's inferred, like I had it, it says unite, but unite will add to something, subtract will obviously subtract from something, so just make sure you have the right thing. If you have it on inferred, make sure it picked the right thing. And then I can say okay. Now, the nice thing about this is you can actually do something similar to what we did in the I-beam example of a cross-section. Rather than mirroring inside a sketch, you can also mirror a feature. So in this case, I want to mirror this side over to here. So I'll pick the extrusion that I just made as my feature. And then for my mirror plane, I'm just going to pick this YZ plane, which is like, you know, straight down the middle since we set our rectangle to be centered at the coordinate origin. So you'll see there will be a dot that'll show up where your new mirror feature is going to end up. Say okay, and there you go. It automatically just mirrors over to this side. Awesome. So now that we've got that done, all we really have left to do is the bolt hole. So for this, you can also just click hole and make a sketch, but we'll just make a sketch so I can show you how to do it. I'm going to pick this plane on the inside here, face of the bracket. You can do it on the outside one too, but this will be easier since the top of our strut needs to interface with this inner U here. If I do it on this face, I'll know exactly how far from the top I need to make the hole for the bolt. So I'll do it on the inside face. I'll say okay. Now this side is a little in the way, so we can just go ahead and do that so we can see. And then for a hole, you're just going to need a point. So you can just pick the point tool up here, pick a point, and then we'll need to constrain the sketch. I will just make sure this is centered on my bracket. So I'll constrain this vertically to this line. And then I will dimension how far my point is from this line. We'll make it 0.3. Awesome. So that's that sketch, fully constrained. We'll say finish. And then we'll do a hole, and we'll make sure we pick that point. What type of hole you do doesn't matter. I'm doing a simple hole, custom size of 0.08 inches. Now the other important thing to do when you're picking a hole is how it knows where to stop drilling. So I'm going to do through body here because it will just basically go through here. And your Boolean should be set to subtract. And you can even just see where it's going to drill through. It looks right. So we'll say okay. And then similarly to how I did the wall, we're also going to mirror that feature. I can pick this hole. For my plane, I'll pick the YZ plane again and say okay. And there you go. There's my two holes. Now, this bracket is almost done. I'll show you how to curve the corners as well, but we'll also need to add these holes to our strut right now. So, similar thing, we'll just start with a sketch on this plane, say okay, and then we'll just add a point onto here. I can basically constrain it the exact same, just constrain it that way, and then this is the important part, is making sure that the dimension is the same, which would be 0.3. Close that, fully constrained, and then I'll go ahead and finish the sketch. And then we'll go ahead and make that a hole again. But this time it's important that you say, you can say to a certain value, however far in you want to drill this. Let's say I wanted to do 0.3 inches in. Okay, cool. Now you can see that only drilled a certain depth in. And then similarly to how we mirrored the hole on the bracket, you can also mirror this over to the other side. I'm not going to do it for time's sake, but that's how you would do it. Is you can just mirror again across the YZ plane. Here, I can do it really quick. And then you'll see it'll just mirror your hole over to the other side. Awesome. So now all that's really left to do on our bracket is if you want to do something like an edge blend, you can. Basically what that does is you pick this tool and you just click the corner that you want to cut. You can see I'm just doing this tangent selection for the edge, circular shape, and then you'll pick a radius. We can do something like this. And then you can also select as many edges as you want to be that size. So I will pick these edges, and then in my example, I think I also had these two edges. But let's do like 0.05. And then just say apply. And as you can see, it'll just blend those edges for me. I'll go ahead and hide my sketches here so you can see kind of what that looks like. Or sorry, I guess I actually had these edges curved, but it doesn't matter. However you want to do it. So that's what it'll look like, and then that's basically how you'll make your bracket. One more thing, if you do want to actually put your parts together, a really easy way to do that I'll show you really quickly. Before I do that, though, I forgot to mention this in the first one. If you want to actually give a material to your strut, you can click this button under Tools, Assign Materials, and then it'll say Select Body. You can just go ahead and select your strut, and then pick whatever you wanted from this list. The ones I had put in the design section are all on this list, so let's see, I'll put like titanium on there, and then say OK. And now technically it's titanium, so yeah. And then if I wanted to actually put these two things together, I'll make sure I save both of these parts. And then really quickly, to actually interface these two things together, you can pick an assembly. Again, make sure the units are correct. Go ahead and say OK. And then once this creates, you can just pick these struts, which will be the loaded parts because you have them open. Say OK, and then you're going to go to the Assemblies tab, and then you can just move your bracket by doing Move Component, selecting it, and then say Specify Orientation, and it'll bring up this kind of coordinate system here. You can use these to move in any of the three directions, and then to rotate, click this, click and hold, left click and drag, and then you'll see it kind of just moves. And then similarly to constraints for a sketch, there's also like a assembly constraints option. So if I actually wanted to make these touch, I would pick like this one that's called Touch Align, and you can just pick like this face, and like this, and there you go. You'll see it fits right on there, and even the holes are aligned. So that's basically how you would apply those two things together. And then the only other thing is if you wanted to change the colors, like I did in the example, you can just pick an object using Edit Object Display under the View tab, select an object, and then you can pick whatever color you want. Super easy. So that's how I got them to be different colors. But yeah, that's basically how you would put the two things together in an assembly, and how you would make a bracket and things like that. So if you have any questions on any of these, please shoot me a Slack DM. I'm happy to help you. I know it has a bit of a learning curve, but I hope it's at least a little bit fun for you guys to kind of get to play around with this. So